There are a display of really hated Twitter users out there, whether it's something of their criminal history or something that they did is absolutely unforgivable. But by far, the most hated Twitter user out there, or at least in my opinion, is this one. He simply goes by the name Japan, or in his Denja Kirakado, and he has 3,000 followers. However, though, every time he tweets, a bunch of his tweets just get spammed by comments and quote retweets with not that many likes. As I said in a pretty earlier video I did, if your tweets get way more quote tweets, or let alone quote tweets with likes, that's not a good thing. So who is this guy, and why is he so hated by a bunch of people to the point where almost every comment that you see related to him is just a bunch of death threats and telling him to KYS? Well, let's find out. The biggest reason as to why he is so hated spans upon all the way back in 1988 to 1989. Meet Junko Furuta. She was a 19-year-old woman from Japan who unfortunately got her life cut by arguably in one of the worst ways possible, and some maybe one of the worst cases of torture and death they have ever seen. What these people did to her is really graphic to the point that they even mentioning some of the more lenient details might be a little bit too much for me and the channel to handle, and I think some of you viewers might be a little bit too much for you to handle, so I'm not gonna explain the details. But if you want to see it in more graphic detail, there's some videos out there, even a warning, it gets really graphic. But the gist of it, she was beaten, raped, tortured, and tormented for 44 days until she passed away from those injuries. There were mainly 4 people involved. After they were caught, they were arrested. For whatever reason, during the trial and the verdict, despite its graphicness of the crime, they received very light sentences, with the maximum sentence of a person being only 20 years, where some even received single digits of years, with I think 8 years, 5 years, and 6 years respectively. These things are still out and enjoying life to this day, which still beyonds me upon many others who feel the same way upon hearing on the Junko Furuta case. And that leads us to one of the people involved who still uses Twitter and is still active to this day, despite him having the reputation of being one of the killers of arguably one of the worst cases and most graphic cases you'll ever see. I am not too sure as to how people found out that this account is one of the killers, let alone him being Shinji Minato, but people found out, and yeah. It's to the point where every time he tweets at least something, it could be anything, but at least he tweets something, the comments get bloated by him again with a bunch of death threats, telling him to KYS, and a bunch of pictures of Junko splattered in the comments and quotes. But judging on how he tweets, I don't think he really cares, honestly. From what I can gather, he tweets a bunch of political stuff and some other stuff revolving in a more political sense. But the political side of things is like besides the point, even though it's like his main intent of tweeting stuff. But there are some tweets that I found out are really interesting and really ironic that I'm going to show pretty soon. How someone like him tweeting is wild, and people like Elon should have get to jumping in like right now. But unfortunately, he's too busy abolishing the block button, which is against, or I believe against the Apple Store TOS. And Elon is just in a spree of him just doing some of the worst marketing practices you will ever see in your life. But that's a story for another day. I'm not talking about Elon, I'm talking about Shinji here. Some of the tweets you're gonna see are wild, to say at least. I'm gonna translate them right now.
If you don't mind, could you please tell me what area the scene of the fabricated dangerous person incident was? I was also fabricated. I was arrested for attempted murder, had a psychiatric evaluation for 3 months, then was indicted for a crime involving obstruction of justice, and was released on a suspended sentence 1 year and 3 months after the incident.
There was a lot wrong and just straight up ironic and just completely unself-awareness going on in just one tweet. Where you're mainly known for one of the worst crimes in worst cases. Some will see, like if a normal person will see the case of Junko Furuta, they'll just say this is the one. Although him tweeting out his quote-unquote pain, those are the ones that bring him the more attention, which is saying something. Oh, by the way, by scrolling through his Twitter, there's a row of tweets where he posts his feet. No comment. But let's get to the second tweet, shall we?
My whole body is tingling again today. It is now just after 4:30 a.m., but for the past few months one had been falling asleep between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., and after only 3 to 4 hours of sleep, I am forcefully woken by a terrible numbness.
I don't know, man. I wish that sleep is not 3 to 4 hours, but 24 hours, and you won't woke up ever.
In society, we are praised when we help victims of traffic accidents or catch hit-and-run drivers. Why do people resist when we publicize the problem, help the victims, or fight back against the perpetrators?
Well, this one's self-explanatory. I'm not gonna say much.
He one of them.
Why can't I reflect on the shameful incidents of my childhood and state that what I did wrong now is wrong?
Being many times every single day and night, in all orifices. More than 100 men are believed to have raped her by the end. Sometimes she was by up to 12 different attackers in a single day.
What's wrong with speaking out and making it known that the misuse of technology should not be tolerated? I want people all over the world to know that many people are being abused by this crime. I want those who criticize this to know the truth.
This has 12 million views, 9,464 quotes, and upon 4.6 thousand comments with only 721 likes. This goes beyond his lack of self-awareness and empathy and guilt and remorse. It's this phenomenon in my head where if there's way too much I want to say right now, I can just say nothing, and this is one of them. All I can say is teenagers and kids can be very, very brutal, and sometimes it depends on the crime itself, but some teenagers and kids are just irredeemable no matter what, and Shinji is one of them. Despite him being like 16, 17 during the crime, he's I think at the time in his 50s. He is still irredeemable. Like there is literally no coming back from this, like at all. So for him tweeting something like this, despite his reputation of him being literally one of the killers, and just being involved in one of the worst cases that someone might ever seen. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat the case of Junko Furuta. Is wild. It is just I don't know how this man does it, but he did. it is him thinking, it's an incident, while in reality it is one of the most brutal cases I've seen, and it was not for the Japan system where they rely on rehabilitation. It was like somewhere else. Good chance that crimes like these will sentence someone to the death penalty. Like a really good chance it does. Because I see it happen in America. But that's the point for America. Also, his house, or where he lives, is dark, but due to him just actively tweeting, no one has yet to just straight up attack him. Where I don't know how that's the case, because someone might, because for cases like these and people being known for these cases, there's a good chance that people or mob of people will just get them, like, within a blink of an eye. But they don't, I guess. I don't know. If I know for a fact that if they're in another country, they'll be dead on the spot. And overall, despite me having mixed opinions on how people use the case of Junko Furuta in arguments and disclosures, particularly in gender disclosures, if you see women saying that they're afraid of men or stuff beyond those lines, the case of Junko Furuta is why. And it's just really crazy to see someone as Shinji, despite its profile, still being free and having social media. But yeah. And that's all for this video. This is Fozo Doing Pro here, and I am out of here. Peace.